Hi, I'm Donna Kelsey, Taylor Swift's mother-in-law, and I need to tell you something that nobody else is going to tell you because everybody saw the wedding. Everybody saw Madison Square Garden lit up like a dream. They saw the dress. They saw Adam Sandler standing at that altar trying not to cry and failing. They saw Travis, my boy, standing there in white Dior with his hands shaking so bad that Jason had to put a hand on his shoulder just to steady him. They saw Taylor walk in and they heard the sound that went through 1,000 people all at once. That sound you can't make on purpose. The one that just comes out of a room when something true is happening. Everybody saw all of that. Nobody saw what happened the night before. I did, and I'm going to tell you about it. Not because it's dramatic, not because it went wrong, but because what happened in those quiet hours when the flowers were still being arranged, and the last rehearsals were winding down, and the greatest night of my son's life was still 24 hours away. That is the moment I understood what was really happening inside him. That is the moment I stopped worrying about whether he was ready. So sit with me a while, this won't take long, and I promise you by the time we're done you're going to feel something you didn't expect to feel today. It was July 2nd, the day before everything changed, and I was walking through the garden at the English Manor, just walking because that's what I do when I can't sit still. I move, I find something to do with my hands. Ed was inside with Jason going over something about the ceremony. Kylie was with the girls trying to get them to nap. Taylor was in her room and I didn't want to bother her. I knew she needed space. I knew she needed quiet. I knew she was probably doing the thing she does where she writes in that notebook of hers, the one she carries everywhere, the one she thinks nobody notices. I notice everything, and then I saw him, Travis. He was in the walled garden, the one with the roses that were just starting to bloom, the one with the stone bench that nobody was supposed to know about. The one that I'd discovered on my first morning there when I couldn't sleep and I needed to breathe. He was sitting on that bench and he was crying. Not the kind of crying that's quiet and dignified, not the kind of crying that men do when they think nobody is watching, not the kind of crying that's just a few tears and a quick wipe of the face. This was the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deep, the kind that you can't control, the kind that takes over your whole body. His shoulders were shaking, his head was in his hands. And the sounds he was making, I can't describe them. They weren't words, they were just sounds. The sounds a person makes when they've been holding something in for so long that it finally breaks through. I didn't move. I stood there behind the ivy, the same ivy I'd hidden behind before, and I watched my son fall apart, and I didn't know what to do. Because Travis has never been the one who falls apart. Travis is the one who holds everyone else together. Travis is the one who makes jokes when things get hard. Travis is the one who shows up and does the work and never complains about the weight of it. That's who he's always been. That's who I raised him to be. But there he was, sitting on that stone bench, crying like his heart was breaking. And I realized in that moment that I had never actually seen my son break down, not like this, not completely, not in a way that left nothing hidden. I had seen him cry. Of course I had. I'm his mother. I saw him cry when he was a boy and he fell off his bike and scraped his knee. I saw him cry when his first dog died. I saw him cry when he got injured in college and thought his career was over. I saw him cry when he won his first Super Bowl and the emotion of it all just came pouring out. But this was different. This wasn't the crying of a boy who was hurt. This wasn't the crying of a man who was overwhelmed with joy. This was the crying of someone who had been carrying something for a very long time and had finally let himself put it down. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know whether to go to him or leave him alone. I didn't know whether he would want me to see him like this or whether he would be embarrassed that I had. And then he spoke. He didn't know I was there. He thought he was alone. He thought nobody could hear him, and he said, "I can't do this." I felt my heart stop. "I can't do this," he said again. "I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of her. She deserves someone better. She deserves someone who doesn't have all this. I don't even know what it is, this noise, this weight, this thing that I carry around with me every single day." He was talking to himself, talking to the garden, talking to whatever higher power he believes in, talking to nobody and everybody at the same time, and I just stood there. And I listened. "I've been pretending for so long," he said, "pretending that I have it all together, pretending that I'm confident, pretending that I know what I'm doing, and I don't know anything. I don't know how to be a husband. I don't know how to be a good one. I don't know how to be what she needs. I don't know how to be what she deserves." He paused, he took a breath. A shaky one, the kind that sounds like it hurts. "She's so good," he said. "She's so good and I'm just me. I'm just a football player from Ohio who got lucky. I'm just a guy who happened to be in the right place at the right time. I'm just a guy who somehow convinced the most incredible woman in the world to marry him. And I don't know why. I don't know why she chose me. I don't know what she sees in me. I don't know what I have to offer her. He put his head back down in his hands. What if I mess it up? He said. What if I ruin everything? What if I'm not the man she thinks I am? What if I can't give her what she needs? What if I fail? What if I'm not enough? And then he started crying again, harder this time, the kind of crying that makes you gasp for air. I couldn't stay hidden anymore. I stepped out from behind the ivy. I walked toward him, and I said, Travis. He looked up, and his face, his beautiful, open, impossible to hide anything face, was red and swollen and wet with tears. He looked like a little boy. He looked like he was 5 years old again, and he'd fallen off his bike, and he needed his mother to kiss his knee and tell him it was going to be okay. Mom, he said, and his voice cracked on that single word. I sat down next to him on the stone bench. I put my arm around him and I pulled him close. Tell me, I said, tell me everything. And he did. He told me that he had been scared for months, that the closer the wedding got, the more terrified he became, not of marrying Taylor, not of the commitment, not of any of the things that people usually get scared of before a wedding. He was scared of being enough. He told me that he had spent his whole life trying to prove himself, proving that he was good enough to play football, proving that he was good enough to be in the NFL, proving that he was good enough to be a Super Bowl champion, proving that he was good enough to be in the spotlight. And he was tired. He was so tired. He told me that he had never really believed he deserved any of it, that he had always felt like a fraud. That every time he won something, every time he achieved something, every time someone praised him, there was a voice in his head that said, "You don't deserve this, you're not really that good, you just got lucky." He told me that he had been fighting that voice his entire life, and he told me that with Taylor it was different. With Taylor, the voice was louder. Because with Taylor, he had something to lose. He had never had something to lose before, not like this, not something so precious, so valuable, so irreplaceable. And the thought of losing her, the thought of not being good enough for her, it terrified him in a way that nothing else ever had. What if I'm not the man she thinks I am? He said again. What if I can't give her the life she deserves? What if I can't make her happy? What if I let her down? I held him tighter. Travis, I said, look at me. He looked at me. Taylor Swift loves you, I said. She loves you more than she has ever loved anyone. She told me that. She told me that the day she met you, she knew that you were the one. She knew that you were the person she had been waiting for her whole life. But, no buts, I said, let me finish. I took a breath. I have watched you your entire life, I said. I have watched you struggle. I have watched you succeed. I have watched you fall down and get back up again. I have watched you become the man you are today, and I am so proud of you, not because you're famous. Not because you're rich, not because you're successful, because you're good, because you're kind, because you're honest, because you're loyal, because you show up for the people you love, because you don't give up when things get hard, because you're exactly the kind of man that a woman like Taylor deserves. He shook his head. I don't feel like that man. I know you don't, I said. But that doesn't mean you aren't him. That just means you're human. That just means you're scared. And being scared doesn't make you weak. Being scared doesn't make you unworthy. Being scared means you understand what's at stake. And that's a good thing. That's the thing that will make you a good husband, because you care, because you're invested, because you're terrified of losing her. And that terror will keep you showing up every single day. He was quiet for a moment. Taylor doesn't love you because you're perfect, I continued. Taylor loves you because you're real. Taylor loves you because you're messy and complicated and human. Taylor loves you because you're not afraid to be vulnerable with her. Taylor loves you because you cry in gardens when you think nobody is watching. Taylor loves you because you're exactly who you are, all of it, every single piece of it. He let out a long, shaky breath. But what if she wakes up one day and realizes she made a mistake, he asked. What if she sees me for who I really am and decides she doesn't want that? What if she leaves? Travis, I said, I need you to hear me. I need you to really hear me. He nodded. Taylor Swift is not going to wake up one day and realize she made a mistake, I said. Taylor Swift knows exactly who she married. Taylor Swift knows exactly who you are. She has seen every single part of you. She has seen the messy parts. She has seen the complicated parts. She has seen the parts that you try to hide from the world, and she loves you anyway. She loves you completely. She loves you unconditionally. He looked at me. His eyes were still wet, but there was something different in them now, something that looked like hope. She's not going to leave you, I said. She's not going to wake up and change her mind. She's not going to decide that you're not enough because you are enough. You've always been enough, you just never believed it. And she's going to spend the rest of her life proving it to you. That's what she's signing up for. That's what she's promising you. And you have to let her love you. You have to let her show you that you're worthy because you are. You absolutely are. He was quiet for a long time, and then he said, I don't know how to stop being scared. I smiled. I couldn't help it. Nobody knows how to stop being scared, I said. That's not the point. The point is to be scared and do it anyway. The point is to be scared and show up. The point is to be scared and love her anyway, and that's what you're doing. You're scared and you're still here. You're scared and you're still marrying her. You're scared and you're still showing up. That's what courage looks like. That's what love looks like. It's not the absence of fear. It's fear and love walking hand in hand. He looked at me for a long moment, and then he started crying again, but this time it was different. This time he was crying because he was letting go. He was crying because he was releasing something he had been holding onto for a very long time. He was crying because he was finally allowing himself to believe that he was enough. I held him. I held my son in that walled garden in England on the night before his wedding, and I let him cry. I let him cry until there was nothing left. I let him cry until he had no more tears. I let him cry until his shoulders stopped shaking and his breathing evened out and he was finally at peace. I'm going to be okay, he said, not a question, a statement, a belief. You're going to be more than okay, I said. You're going to be wonderful. You're going to be a wonderful husband. You're going to be a wonderful partner. You're going to be everything she needs because you already are. You already are everything she needs. You just have to let yourself believe it. He sat up. He wiped his face with the back of his hand. He took a deep breath, the kind of breath that fills your whole chest, the kind of breath that says, I'm ready. I'm ready, he said. I looked at him. I looked at my son, at the man he had become. At the man he was about to become. I know you are, I said, and then I told him something that I had never told him before. Travis, I said, there is something I have been meaning to tell you, something I've never said out loud, and I think you need to hear it now. He looked at me, curious. Your father and I said, we knew from the beginning. We knew you were going to be something special, not because of the talent, not because of the size, not because of any of the things that people see, because of the heart. You have the biggest heart of anyone I have ever known, and that heart is going to carry you through everything. That heart is going to make you a good husband. That heart is going to make you a good father. That heart is going to make you a good man, and I have never doubted that, not for one single second. He looked at me, his eyes were wet again, but he was smiling. Thanks, Mom, he said. Always, I said. We sat there for a while longer, just sitting, just being, just breathing in the garden air and listening to the birds and feeling the weight of the moment settle around us. And then I said, do you want to know something else? What? He asked. Taylor called me last night. He looked surprised. She did. She did, I said. At 2 a.m. She couldn't sleep. She was scared too. He stared at me. She was scared, I said. She was scared that she wasn't good enough for you. She was scared that she was going to mess everything up. She was scared that you were going to wake up one day and realize you had made a mistake. She was? He asked. She was, I said. She said the exact same things you just said. She said she was terrified of being too much. She said she was terrified of being not enough. She said she was terrified of letting you down. He shook his head. I didn't know. Of course you didn't, I said. Because she hides it, the same way you hide it, the same way you both hide it from the world, because you both feel like you have to be strong, you both feel like you have to have it all together, and you're both wrong. He looked at me, confused. You don't have to be perfect, I said. Neither of you. That's not what love is. Love is showing up with all your broken pieces and letting someone else help you hold them. Love is being scared and admitting it. Love is leaning on each other when it gets hard. And it's going to get hard, it always does, but that's okay because you're going to have each other, and that's the whole point. He was quiet for a long time, processing, thinking. She was scared, he finally said. She was scared of the same things I was scared of. She was, I said, and she called me because she needed someone to tell her that everything was going to be okay. And I told her that it was because I knew that you were going to show up. I knew that you were going to be exactly the man she needed. And I was right. He looked at me. And there was something in his eyes that I hadn't seen before, something that looked like relief. "She's scared too," he said. "She's scared too." "Everyone is scared," I said. "That's what makes it real. If you weren't scared, it would mean you didn't care, and you care so much. That's why you're scared, that's why she's scared, and that's beautiful. That's what makes this so beautiful." He nodded, slowly at first, then faster. "I get it," he said. "I finally get it." "Get what?" I asked. "Love," he said. "I finally understand what love is. It's not about being perfect. It's not about having it all together. It's about being scared and showing up anyway. It's about being broken and letting someone see it. It's about being human and being loved anyway." I smiled. "You finally get it," I said. "Thanks to you," he said. "Thanks to you," I said. "Thanks to you and Taylor and this beautiful, terrifying, wonderful thing you're about to do." We sat there for a while longer, and then he stood up, and he pulled me to my feet, and he hugged me, the kind of hug that says everything. The kind of hug that doesn't need words. "I love you, Mom," he said. "I love you too, baby," I said, "always." And then he went inside. He went to find Taylor, and I watched him go. I watched my son walk back into that manor with his shoulders straight and his head high and the weight of everything finally lifted from his shoulders. He was ready. He was finally ready. And I absolutely knew that everything was going to be okay. The next day he stood at that altar in white Dior, and he didn't cry, not at first. He held it together. He held it together until the doors opened and Taylor walked in. And then he was gone, completely gone. He put one hand over his mouth and Jason put a hand on his back. And Travis just stood there with his eyes full, watching her walk toward him like a man who cannot believe his own life. I watched him from my seat in the front row. I watched my son become a husband. And I thought about that night in the garden. I thought about the tears. I thought about the fear. I thought about all the things he had been carrying and all the things he had finally let go. And I smiled, because I knew what nobody else knew. I knew that Travis Kelce had broken down in tears the night before his wedding. I knew that he had been scared and vulnerable and completely undone. I knew that he had cried in a garden and told his mother all his deepest fears. And I knew that he had gotten back up. I knew that he had walked back into that manor and found his strength. I knew that he had shown up the next day and said "I do" with the full weight of his heart. And I knew that he was ready. I knew that he had always been ready. He just needed to believe it. And on that night in the garden, he finally did. I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell Taylor. I didn't tell Jason. I didn't tell Ed. I didn't tell anyone about what I had seen and heard. Because it wasn't mine to tell, it was Travis's, and he would tell her someday. I knew he would. He would tell her about that night in the garden and the tears and the fear and the moment he finally let it all go. And she would hold him, and she would understand, because she had been there too. She had been scared too, and that's what marriage is. Two people who were both scared, both broken, both human, deciding to be scared and broken and human together. Two people who showed up anyway, two people who loved each other through the fear. And I was there for it all. I was there for the breakdown and the breakthrough. I was there for the tears and the triumph. I was there for the fear and the faith. I was there for my son. And I will always be there, because that's what mothers do, that's what mothers are for, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that I was there that night. I'm so grateful that I got to see my son at his most vulnerable. I'm so grateful that I got to be the one to tell him that he was enough, because he is enough. He has always been enough, and now he knows it, and that's the real story. That's the story nobody else knows. That's the story I'm telling you now. Travis Kelce broke down in tears before his wedding, and I was there, and I watched him do it, and I watched him get back up, and I watched him become the man he was always meant to be, and I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of both of them. They're going to be okay. They're going to be more than okay. They're going to be wonderful, because they have each other, and they have us, and they have love, and that's enough. That's everything. I'm Donna, Kelce, Taylor Swift's mother-in-law, and I'm the luckiest woman in Ohio. Thank you for sitting with me today.